of, well, gaming news and everything that's going on here in Locked Loot. On September 23rd, we had a massive Commander ban announcement for Magic the Gathering. One that shook the community, one that caused a lot of things to happen with it. For four items being banned, we're quite surprised at the shock that happened in the community and the aftermath. And everything that happened with it. Now, whether you think they should be banned, there's some information we're going to be going through them 1v1, one-on-one, talking about the Commander Council's reason for them to be banned, why I think they should be banned, why I think they shouldn't be banned, because there's both sides to this argument. Why I think they settled on these specifically, and of course the aftermath from the community and everything that has happened since. We totally didn't wait a week and a half to cover this because we were going to Salt Lake Comic Con, or FanX as it's supposed to be called. You know, there was a big lawsuit from Comic Con. It's a long story. We'll get into it in stream. I'm your host, Isaiah.
I'm Jacob.
This is Locked Loot. All right.
Before we go on, you said 1v1, then one-on-one. Those are the same terms.
No. 1v1 has a more challenging vibe to it. It's 1v1 me, bro. Versus...
I'm pretty sure the phrase you were looking for was one by one.
Yes, that was the phrase I was looking for. And this is live, so we can't change anything. But yes, that was the phrase I'm looking for. We're going to start... Actually, no, I want to start with the easy one. I was going to start with Mana Crypt. The 4 items that were banned were Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, Nadu, Winged Wisdom, and Dockside Extortionist. I'm actually going to start with Nadu here. And why I think...
Why was Nadu banned?
Nadu... Okay. What do you mean, why was Nadu banned? What creatures you can... Nadu, 3 mana cost, flying, 3/4. When creatures you control have whenever they become the target of a spell or ability, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a land card, put it on the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. This ability triggers only twice each turn. That is twice per creature, not twice. And how Nadu decks are normally built is you just run a crap ton of cantrips and a crap ton of abilities that target. Whether it be triggered abilities, whether it be activated abilities. You're just trying to trip that Nadu stuff to get some advantage. Now, the reason why the IRC said that it should be banned, Nadu was the easiest one. Nadu has been ejected from multiple formats. And this is their words. I'm going to be just reading their quote here for what it is, and then we'll talk about it. Nadu has been ejected from multiple formats at this point. It's no surprise that we took a close look at it for Commander. Sometimes hugely problematic cards in other formats, Oko, Companions, are fine for Commander, but our observations of Nadu suggest its inherent play pattern is going to cause problems. Part of the problem is the way in which Nadu wins, where it takes a really long time to do non-deterministic sequences that can't be shortcut and might even fizzle out. These aren't dedicated combo lines that you have built a deck around. Dropping Nadu into a normal Simic deck still runs the risk of grinding the game down to a slog of resource accrual. It interacts badly with cards that are staples of casual play, Lightning Greaves, notably, meaning decks that it gets thrown into without abuse intent can still cause a situation where the player is monopolizing all the time in the game. That is not an experience we want to risk, so Nadu gets itself another ban. Let me break that down. So when it's talking about non-deterministic combos, what that means is that when Nadu comes into play as a commander or onto the field in Commander, and he starts to go off, you can't guarantee the win because you're relying on weird draws, getting those lands.
Isn't that what Cascade does?
It's non-deterministic in a different way. This one takes forever. With Cascade, you can shortcut it and say, I Cascade twice. I'm just going to reveal until I hit it. And then you just quickly do that. And it's also a cast trigger. This is just an ability target. There's no way of shortcutting a Nadu trigger. You have to go through the full trigger. You know, I equip this, target this. Okay, I reveal the top. It's a land. Put it on the field. Oh, it's not a land. I put it in my hand. You have to repeat that process with every time. Now, and that's a non-deterministic combo. Now, non-deterministic combos, Jake mentioned itself with Cascade, is in itself does exist. The issue is Nadu itself is a non-deterministic combo. Every time Nadu comes into play,
Because
it is
you
going
can target Nadu.
Yes. And there are cards, it mentioned explicitly Lightning Greaves. So when you equip a creature with an equipment, it targets that creature. Okay? Which means it triggers Nadu. Now, Lightning Greaves says its equip cost is 0, which means you can literally just equip it to every creature twice for free and combo off with Nadu.
Yeah.
That's going to grind the game down to a slog where every turn I do this 20 times. I do this 5 times. I do this 10 times.
So I could see her being banned, him being banned as a commander.
I actually don't know if Nadu's a him or a her. I just feel like he has that himbo energy.
So I could see it being banned as a commander, but in the 99, it wouldn't be horrible.
In the 99, it wouldn't cause as many problems as before, but it can still cause the same problem. It's just not repeated. Nadu is a threat you have to deal with when it hits the field. The first thing to target Nadu should be a kill spell.
There's a lot of stuff that in Commander that does that. Really? An Eldrazi Titan shows up, you target it immediately.
Yeah, but Nadu's 3 mana.
Yeah.
An Eldrazi Titan shows up at the end of the game. This shows up at the beginning. This can be a problem for games that don't run a lot of interaction.
So honestly, I would say it should be banned as a commander, but not in the 99.
We'll get into that because there's no separate commander ban list banned as commander. We'll get into that later.
Well, there used to be.
There used to be. I think. I argue that there still should be. I think Nadu's fine in the 99. It's similar to like Oko, where it's a problem, but it can be dealt with.
Yeah, it'll get you ahead in the early game, and
we have the tools to deal with a Nadu in Commander.
yeah.
We do not have the tools to repeatedly deal with a Nadu in Commander. Nadu hits the field, you should kill spell it. That's just the end of the story. And if you don't want to trip the Nadu, you should board wipe. It's like we have enough removal and enough non-targeted removal and enough targeted removal that it's like, okay, if you're playing a decent game of Commander, this hits the field, one of the other 3 players counter spells, board wipes, kill spells.
Yeah. Or if not, within 3 turns, they're going to counterspell.
And when they banned this, they were considering the player who's monopolizing the time. Now, somebody who's quick with Nadu, I honestly think quick with Nadu, it's the same kind of combo player problem. You have to cast the spell, you have to target the creature, then you have to reveal. And that takes a long time. I understand that time thing. Honestly, I do believe commander clocks should be a thing where like players don't durdle around. They've only got so much time to play their turn. Right? Mm. That way the combo players... It hurts the combo players. Okay? But not...
Aren't you a combo player?
Yes. But I'm a fast combo player. I talk fast. I play fast. I'm a fast combo player. Now, Nadu itself, yeah. I honestly... Did he deserve the ban? Yes and no. We have the tools to deal with him. They were very worried about time management. It's like, okay, Commander, if you're worried about time management, you better start banning all combo decks. Because combo decks are notorious. Their phrase is you better bring a coloring book for your opponents.
Yeah.
I don't think Nadu deserved the ban for just this reason. I think he deserved ban as commander, which should still be a thing. Honestly, I do believe that should still be a thing. But I'm still iffy. They should have let him have more time in commander. And I'm not just saying that because right before the ban, I ordered a Nadu for my tribal bird deck. I'm not just saying that because of that. Partly because of that. Other problem is I don't think we have enough data to say Nadu's going to be a problem.
Yeah, true. And not only that, but it might change depending on Wizard of the Coast.
We're going to talk about that later too.
I know.
I want to go through the cards. But yeah, Nadu, I just feel like we need more data. I don't have enough information about whether he should be banned. Now, the other cards that were banned, oh boy, are they spicy. Let's talk Mana Crypt.
Legitimately, if you could afford it, you would have it in your deck. Don't you have one in your deck?
I sold it before the ban.
Oh, you did?
But
you used to
I'm
use
gonna
it.
know. I had no knowledge of the ban. I just sold it because I was taking apart my CEDH deck.
I knew you had a deck that ran it.
Yeah, it was in my CEDH deck. Mana Crypt. Coming down for no mana on turn 1, it's quite possible to have the explosive start of Mana Crypt into a Signet or Talisman, land and another Signet, leaving the player untapping 5 mana on turn 2. In games going over 12 turns, the accumulated threat of damage from Mana Crypt provides a reasonable counterbalance for its explosive effect, but when you are snowballing to a turn 6 to 8 win, it is a meaningless drawback.
Oh, this is funny. So they legitimately banned one card for slowing the game down too much. Banned this one for speeding it up too much.
No, you're right. And this is why they actually put these all into a they put these all into the same kind of reasoning. The philosophy of Commander prioritizes creativity, and one of the ways we have historically reflected that in the rules and ban lists to encourage a slower pace to the game than traditional formats. This gives decks time and space to develop and do things differently. We have a goal to make it easier for players who enjoy slower, more social games to have an environment for them to explore. Commander has always been potential for someone to get out to a fast start and be the first arch villain in the game. But that advantage has been balanced by having multiple players gunning for them at once. It happens in the past few years, notably since Strixhaven, we have seen a pattern of stronger mid-game cards that allow the player who skips past the early game to snowball their advantage straight through to the win. Occasionally, games like that are fine, but it shouldn't be common, and we're taking steps to bring that frequency down a bit by banning 3 of the most explosive plays in the format. Did Mana Crypt deserve it? Under their rules, yes, I would say they deserved it. It deserved it. Does Mana Crypt really deserve it? Sure, it's super explosive. But the thing about Mana Crypt and the thing about these kind of games is their worry about somebody snowballing the game doesn't take into account the turn 0 discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, okay. They start with 3 mana at the beginning of the game. That's a rare chance. I mean, for you to have Mana Crypt in your opening hand with mana isn't going to be very likely.
You don't need it in your opening hand with mana.
Yeah, but you have 99 cards.
That's not taking into account tutors or anything like that. And in CEDH, this card does come out quite a bit because you have Mana Vault, you have Mana Crypt, you have Soul Ring, you have Jeweled Lotus, you have Mox Opal, you have a couple of Moxes. I would argue Mana Crypt is one of the strongest cards in the format. Now, their reasoning, I say yes. The cons are people complained about it. And I understand where the controversy comes because this is where we have to start talking about the controversy of these cards. And we'll go into it in depth a little bit later. But I want to discuss just briefly what happened when this was banned. People were not mad that this was banned. Okay? They were mad that it was banned because they lost their price. They have to switch the cards out. And this kind of goes for all 3. This is why I'm covering it with the first one. People were mad because Wizards of the Coast knew this was coming. They knew these cards were being looked at for a potential ban. Okay? Wizards of the Coast knew that these cards were being looked at for a potential ban, and they still put them in product as chase cards. Mana Crypt is it Mana Crypt? Yeah, Mana Crypt was in Ixalan. Mana Crypt, they put these in packs for people to chase, knowing that a ban may be coming. That's some scummy business right there.
Yeah, but bans change.
Yes, bans change.
And not only that, but it was being looked at for a ban.
Yeah, they didn't know. completely if it was banned because the IRC is completely
They don't control the.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Mana Crypt, 2 mana. And I understand why they banned it because yes, that is good. That is really good and can lead to some very explosive plays. And it's free mana. It's so quick and free mana. I'm like, okay. If you look at it other formats, I'm going to make this argument here that I haven't seen people make. If you look at other formats, and you see the top decks that have the top decks in the format, okay, the ones that are winning the tournaments. If there is a card that is in every deck other than a land, Wizards of the Coast starts looking at it and going, is that card a problem? Right? In Modern, in Legacy, if they look at a card and the top deck always has, say, I think the best example was Oka. It's an old example. There's been many since then. This is the first one off the top of my head. Oko, they start going, is this card broken? Is this not something we can deal with? Well, okay, if we take that example and lead it to mana, put it to Mana Crypt, I'm betting 99% of CEDH decks have Mana Crypt in it, which means Mana Crypt probably has about a 99% win rate.
The thing is, like I said,
it's weird because
the hard part is, it's just like other stuff. Artifacts, you can deal with artifacts.
But you cannot deal with an artifact this early. They're worried about explosive turns. And I'm going, okay, I can see it. I'm not sure this was the right approach. The turn 0 discussion is the right approach. Let's talk about another card because Mana Crypt is done to death. Let's talk about Jeweled Lotus. Jeweled Lotus was banned for a similar reason. Another card that can give you 5 mana on turn 2. Jeweled Lotus does it without even needing a good hand. Though you're restricted in what you can do with the mana, 4 and 5 mana commanders can pack a significant punch nowadays, often drawing cards to make up for the one-shot mana and defensive abilities such as Ward that can't be interacted with early in the game. Okay, so their concern is people getting their commander out too early. Mid-game commanders, like 5, 6, 7 mana commanders, getting them out very early.
I struggle getting my 4 mana commander out.
That's kind of a you problem. We need to look through your deck. That's a deck problem.
No, I just struggle. My mana shuffle is horrible.
Yeah, he can't draw to save his life. Okay, Jeweled Lotus was banned for a similar reason to Mana Crypt. The 3 cards were banned for a similar reason to Mana Crypt. Okay, so if they were banned due to a similar reason to Mana Crypt, what do we do with that?
So if you're gonna ban both of these cards, isn't that gonna run the game extremely slow?
Well, that was the point. It's supposed to be a slower game. Okay.
Yeah, but then you ban a card that slows everything down.
No, this doesn't. You're talking Nadu?
Yeah.
Nadu didn't slow down like games as a whole. They weren't looking at game length with Nadu. They were looking at turn length. Monopolizing time. So we can discuss that later, like the difference between game length getting short. That's been my complaint about Commander 2, is that Commander game lengths have been getting shorter and shorter and shorter, whereas turn lengths have been getting longer and longer and longer. You know, I remember days when Commander would go 15, 20 turns, and that was a good game. And nowadays
our games don't do that.
We're killing each other by round 4, round 5, round 6. The game has just gotten significantly faster. I think cards like this are part of the problem. I think the strength of cards is rising. Jeweled Lotus, did it deserve it? Under their reasoning, I'd say yes. It's free mana. It's 3 free mana. Honestly, it reminds me of like a Black Lotus, which is also banned. So I would say yes, because there's similar cards to it that are banned, and have been banned for sometime due to their strength. I think Jeweled Lotus did deserve the ban. Now, people's argument against this are the same argument they have with Dockside, and we'll talk about Dockside because I think Dockside's situation is a little bit different to Jeweled Lotus. Jeweled Lotus was released in Commander Masters.
So it's only able to be playing Commander.
3 mana of any one color. Spend this only to cast your commander. This was a commander-only card.
So the thing is, like, they were saying that they're concerned about it being able to cast a 5 to 7 mana commander early game.
They didn't say that. I made that extrapolation. They were worried about how fast you can get your commander out. Can do with 4 and 5 mana commanders, can pack a significant punch nowadays.
So the thing is okay, you have 3 mana. You still would have to get a 5 for a 5 mana commander. You would still have to have that would still only be turn 2.
Yeah, but that's still okay. Look, if I got Tivit out on turn 3, okay, what would happen to the game?
Well, how many kill spells do I have in my?
I have, but Tivit has Ward 2. You don't have the mana at that point to deal with Tivit, which means I run away with the game.
Except for what was it? Ward specifically states that it can't be targeted, right?
Yeah, it can be board wiped, but you're not going to cast a board wipe on turn 2 or turn 3. You don't have the mana for it.
Says the person who built a pipe bomb deck.
Ashling the Pilgrim. There's this, as Maldhound puts it, I got to say it, you got to have a certain amount of balls to roll up to a table with 99 cards and the ingredients to a 99 mountains and the ingredients to a pipe bomb. Okay, but Jeweled Lotus, commander only card that got banned. Now, I think this is a situation of the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. I don't think Wizards discussed a card like this with the Commander Council when they were designing it.
Well, the council has nothing to do with Wizards.
Exactly. This is the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. And so these cards being designed this way, it deserved the ban. Honestly, I'm like, Jeweled Lotus was a problem. From the get-go, Jeweled Lotus was a problem. 3 mana for free on turn 1 means that you can get it out very fast. You can get it out very aggressively. You can get an aggressive commander out very fast. Say, Jake, I mana crypt Jeweled Lotus, land, I cast Tivit. No, I can't cast Tivit. 2 mana commander. I cast a 6 mana cost 2 mana commander. Something like that. Well, guess what? I have a ton of mana now. I have a big creature out. I can swing. My commander is out. I can do a lot of things with it. If it has ward, I can defend it. My combos start going very early. I understand this being banned for explosive turns. This is another card that can be fixed with the turn 0 discussion. And I think that needs to be isn't talked about by the Commander Council. Now, Dockside Extortionist has a very... We're not spending a lot of time on Jeweled Lotus because, in my opinion, Jeweled Lotus was one of the cards that deserved it the most. Nadu, we need more data. Jeweled Lotus? Oh, yeah. No, this thing has been a problem.
I think it's the fact that it's 3 mana. If it was 2 mana, it would be a better.
It's still a Lotus. The issue is that free mana. I think 2 mana would be better and a little bit more balanced. I don't think it would have been banned for 2 mana. I think the 3 mana, they were going, it's a Lotus. It's like Black Lotus. You sacrifice it, you get 3 mana. I think it deserved it, in all honesty. Now, like I said, Dockside Extortionist has a very same situation to Jeweled Lotus. Now, Dockside Extortionist is the only creature getting... Well, one of the 2 creatures getting banned out of this group. It's when Dockside Extortion enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponent controls. We all know Dockside. Now, Dockside. Dockside isn't normally quite as explosive in the early game, but can still go mana positive on turn 2 and start getting... generate substantial treasures. After that, it's been on the border for years. We've shied away from acting in the past because the card has scaled well with the power level of the table, but it's a frequent contributor to more egregious snowballing starts. Now, what they're talking about is, one, this card has been on their radar. Dockside has been on their radar for years. I'm betting Dockside has been on their radar since the deck released with him. Because this is the first card that was in a precon. This was in a Commander precon deck. And not just like Kamigawa Commanders. It was in Commander 2018, I think it was. 2019. It was in an actual Commander deck. Now, I think they have a good point. Dockside scales well with the power level of the table. Okay? Dockside scales well with the power of the table. It does. Honestly, it really does scale well. Lower power tables aren't going to be able to use Dockside nearly as efficiently as high power tables because there's not going to be that many artifacts and enchantments out very early.
Yeah.
The issue is it can become abusive. It is Dockside.
So can any card.
Any card. But it can become very abusive because it's an ETB trigger. I start cloning. I start flickering. This thing keeps producing me artifacts.
Well, so
this one's hard.
People could say the same thing about doubling season.
Well, yeah, but that they make, and that's why I'm like, I'm on the fence. And this is why I think the Commander Council has been on the fence about this one being banned. Because it does scale well. It can help you snowball early, but it makes you the arch enemy very quickly. You get a bunch of treasures, everyone just starts throwing.
Really, most of Commander is politics.
I think, here's the thing. I think we have a similar problem with Dockside Extortionists that we do with Nadu. We don't have the data. They just banned 2 major artifacts from the format. Decks are going to have to shift.
But like I said, this one...
Now, decks are going to have to shift. I'm on the fence about this one, whether I think it should be banned or not.
It's in the 99, so you can't run it as Commander.
Yeah. It's iffy. It's like, okay, yes, it can lead to some snowballing problems. But
so can almost any token doubler.
Yeah, but you're also not going to see... This is why I'm also like... this is why the aftermarket controls Commander, is because Dockside is a $70, $80 card. It's not going in every deck.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not going in every deck. It's just there. And so I'm like, okay, well, Dockside is just kind of there. I think we should have seen where the chips lay once they're done with the bans with Mana Crypt, and see where the chips fall. I don't think Dockside was too much of a problem.
No, it's no more of a problem than, like I said, doubling season. Doubling season's a problem because it's extremely powerful. But
it's not going in every deck.
You only get it in token decks and
the turn 0 conversation, and this is where I'm going with this, and we said multiple. The turn 0 conversation is very important. Now, Dockside, I don't think it should be banned. I think we needed more data. I think we should see how much of a problem it is when the artifacts are removed. When the very, very early turn artifacts get dealt with, like Mana Crypt, like Jeweled Lotus. Once they got dealt with, I'd like to see where Dockside falls, and maybe they needed an emergency ban after that. But I'm like, Dockside scales well with the table. You don't really need it. And if it becomes a problem at the table, it's kind of the player's job to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's
Really?
another thing that it has no protection. We can kill spell it.
Majority of our games end up going, well, he's a bigger threat than I am.
Well, not just he's a bigger threat than I am. That is a threat. Does anybody have a kill spell? Does anybody have a board wipe? We start dealing with each other. We start playing the game. These things get dealt with when you play the game. It's almost like they're looking at the non-interaction tables and saying, if there was no interaction, these would be a problem. And I'm like, okay, but I have interaction. I have a ton of interaction. This thing has no protection. I can shock this thing and it dies. And sure,
Pogify.
yeah. There's no... I honestly don't think Dockside deserved it. I think Dockside needs to be one of the bans they look at. Okay. Now, we talked about this a little bit, and I think this is where we need to get into the discussion. Turn 0. Can we talk about turn 0? And how important it is to balance things out.
I've never played a turn 0 deck. Against one
No, not turn 0 decks. The turn 0 conversation. The conversation that we always have before we break out the decks. What power level are we playing at? Are we playing 5s, 6s? It's a hard number. I think it's super important. Your Commander games need to have that turn 0 conversation. Because if you're not having that turn 0 conversation, your game's not going to end well. I'm just saying, your game's not going to end well. Because somebody's going to pull out their EDH deck, someone's going to pull out an upgraded precon. And everyone's going to get run over. That we tend to self-balance our games by going, what power level do we play at? I've got 5s, I got 6s, I got 7s, I got 8s, I got 9s. Now, that is a super important conversation to have. How strong is your deck?
Yeah.
And in tournaments, that can't be done, which is, I think, why IRC banned these cards, is because in tournaments, you can't have power level discussions. In tournaments, it is...
Everybody brings their most.
Fend for yourselves. Maybe you're saying this is a casual tournament, so people don't bring their CEDH decks. But people are going to bring some strong decks. I mean, it's up to the tournament organizers to really balance the casual with the powerful. Playing with power. I joke that me and Jake do nothing but play with power.
I don't even know what power level my decks are.
Jake has some strong decks. We joke that because we know how to build decks, because we've spent so much time playing the game, and I know how to build a deck so well, I am always playing with power. The community that I played with for the longest time, because I knew the game very well, but didn't have any money to play the game, I was known as the Lord of Jank. I found the weirdest cards that were dirt cheap. I made them work. It was so stupid. Once I started playing with power and started having money to actually play the cards I wanted, it was like, okay, now I'm the Lord of Synergy because I can put cards together so efficiently. This card works with this card. This card works with this card. My deck is built around synergy. I started plugging stuff into Commander Salt. If you want to know how salty your deck is, that's great. I started plugging it in. I'm like, all my decks have an A+ in synergy because my decks all work really well together. Now, that kind of discussion comes into play in the turn 0. We got to talk about the aftermath, though, as well. We're already 30 minutes in, so the podcast, we don't have as much time. The aftermath to these cards.
The backlash to this ban.
Holy crap. I have never seen a worse backlash. I've never seen a worse backlash. These bans split the community. You had 3 factions. You had it deserved to be banned, it did not deserve to be banned, and I don't care.
And it depended on the card.
Yeah.
Because those they changed depending on what card they were talking about.
Nadu was very much like everyone went, yeah, I deserved it. They're like so mad about these 4 bans, and then they look at the 3 bans, they're Dockside, Jeweled, and Mana Crypt, and then they looked at Nadu and went, you deserved it. The community has like been like, okay, yeah, no, I can see Nadu. He's been banned in so many other things. He's a problem. He kind of deserved it.
And then the people that are mad about Mana Crypt are the ones who play it
and
consistently.
lost so much money when it crashed. A fun fact: the prices are climbing back up. I'm not surprised. It crashed out of that knee-jerk reaction. And now it's going back up. That's how this whole thing works.
The thing is they're going to go back up, but they're not going to hit where they were.
Well, people are thinking it's... Okay. The backlash was so bad, the Commander Council started getting death threats. And the people on the council who voted against it were getting death threats.
They're like, we voted against
this. Yeah, that was it. We voted against this. It got so bad. Now, let me explain the Commander Council to everybody. The Commander Council are made up by players. Not card designers, not Wizards of the Coast employees. Players. The ones who made the game. The ones who designed EDH and helped to control it going forward. Standardize things, getting Commander going. The Commander Council have day jobs. They are not full-time Magic players. They are not.
They have no connection to Wizards of the Coast.
Exactly. And they got death threats. Because the cards were released as chase cards. Because they were in precons. They went, we don't control any of this. We didn't ask them to put these cards in decks. We didn't ask them to design these cards.
We have no say of what they do.
Exactly. And people bullied them relentlessly to the point where they stepped down. The Commander Council left. The aftermath to this situation was so bad that the Commander Council went to Wizards of the Coast and said, we are handing it over to you.
Here's what is on our ban list. Here is what the reasons why. Take over. Go through what we've done.
Here's the rules. Yes, take over. I hate that this happened. Because we turned the most popular Magic game, the most popular format made by the players for the players, has now been turned over to a soulless corporation.
Which, legitimately, when they look through the ban list and they go, when Wizards of the Coast goes through all of this, they are not going to think of how does this affect the gameplay. No, they're going to think of how can it maximize my profits.
Exactly. The game is now about money. Commander is now about money. The backlash to this, the fact that you guys blamed people who didn't deserve it, the fact that you caused these kind of problems is, I'm like, how did it get so bad that you guys, you forced them to step down, you sent death threats, you caused problems, you bullied people who didn't deserve it, people that have been fans of this game, people who are responsible for your favorite format, the most popular format, saying, I can't take it anymore. Please help.
These were the guys who pretty much started Commander.
And I don't know who's currently on the Commander Council.
But it was the council who created it.
Or their successors.
Yes.
People who have been placed on this to run Commander from the fans' perspective. They have not been focused on the health of the format. They've been focused on the fun of the format. And it's like, oh, great. Now you're going to hand it to people who care about the health of the format.
The thing is even when it comes to still having the deck that you built with these cards in it, okay, there's another format that you can play it in. There is a Commander, what is it called? Where there's pretty much no ban list.
No ban Commander, yeah. It's just people can run no ban list Commander games
if they want to. This is specifically
standardized rules.
Yeah, standardized rules for like the what are they called? I'm completely having a brain fart. But for tournaments, the casual tournaments. That's what these bans are for.
Yeah, it's going to be more fun if we don't have these cards in our deck.
It's either that or the people who are hosting these tournaments can take and go, okay, this is the power level that we're playing at. Nothing over this.
Now, there is a discussion about that. And you're actually bringing me to the last thing that we're going to talk about. Commander is being taken over by Wizards of the Coast. They're taking a look at the format. Do you know what they're doing? They're introducing a bracket system. Cards within 4 brackets of power. Okay? And they're saying these cards are in these 4 brackets. Well, guess what? Armageddon's like in a tier 4. And it's like, okay, now it helps standardize something that I think the IRC should have done. We are going to standardize the turn 0 discussion. I think that's something that needed to happen because everyone can say their deck's a 7. Jake's deck is a 7. It has Primal Vigor, Doubling Season.
Almost every token.
Every token doubler you've heard. It has Aetherflux Reservoir. It generates Scute Swarms like God knows how many they are and where they came from.
And it has, the thing is my deck has 2 different win scenarios.
But it
takes forever to get going. But it's either you kill them with Aetherflux Reservoir because you gain so much life, or you kill them with tokens.
But Jake's is still a 7. Is my Tivit a 7?
No.
Really? I think my Tivit's a 7. But
You
here's how.
pillow fort that stupid thing to all hell.
Here's why the discussion has never been standardized. Is mine about a 7? Yeah. Okay. In my opinion, it's a 7 because in my head I go, okay, it's right below. It's one step below. It's a 7 or 8 because it's one step below CEDH. I'm like 1 to actually no, because I keep CEDH on a separate tree of my 1 to 10s. Long story, but they're standardizing it. They're saying these cards are in these brackets. I think they're on the right track.
Yeah, I think that's going to change your decks then.
I think it'll standardize it. We can go, oh wow, my deck actually has a lot of tier 4s. Oh wow, my deck is actually pretty strong. I think honestly, this is something that the Commander Council should have done, is standardize this discussion.
Yeah, especially for it would help tournament hosts.
Yeah, because they go, okay, no tier 4 cards.
The thing is in a deck that has 1 or 2 tier 4 cards.
And they discussed that. In fact, when Wizards of the Coast released their statement about this, they said, when you're discussing, you can say, I'm running a tier 4 deck, but without these 2 cards, my deck would be tier 2. I'm running only 1 card that's tier 4, or 2 cards that are tier 4.
Yeah.
Without these, it is tier 2. And it's like, that is a discussion to have.
So that's the hard part is that means that, so instead of tiers, we have a number system already established, 1 to 10. Okay, you introduce the tier system, so that way, okay, these tier 4s, depending on how many you have, increases your power by a decimal point.
Yeah, they can standardize this. I honestly think you should actually. You know how people have talked about using this tier system? Your deck can only include this many points. Point value. So your deck, you can put your tier 4 cards in there, but your deck cannot be over 300 points.
Well, that's just it. Like I was saying, we have 1 to 10 on our power ratio. That's how we tend to do it. Like mine's a 7. Okay, if they standardize the tier system and say these are all tier cards. Okay, I have 2 tier 4 cards. Okay, that increases mine. That would put mine at a 7.5 or 7.4.
I think the standardization is smart. I think they're going on the right track. I think Wizards wants to win the community back. I do not believe they will do it in the long run. I do not trust Corpse. I do not trust the suits that they have running the game. I think the tier system was brilliant. I think they should have brought it up with the Commander Council and said, hey, don't step down. Introduce this.
Yeah, I honestly don't think that the council should have stepped down. What should have happened is Wizards of the Coast should have discussed with the council of, hey, what's going to be too powerful for us to release?
Or I've got something even better. Commander Council. You're now a department at Wizards of the Coast. We would like to purchase the Commander Council.
The problem is
here is the 10-year contract. You will all be employed. You will have run of the... The Commander Council could set their demands and be like, yes, we'll join Wizards of the Coast under these conditions.
That's the problem. They're still under the control of Wizards of the Coast. That is where everybody's going to have the issue. Having them as an independent, but still having the communication between the two is what needed to happen.
Would a Wizards of the Coast design liaison help the Commander Council? Say the Commander Council is like, okay, we have before any set announces during the design phase, we meet with the design team once a month or so, and we discuss
the whole
cards.
Council sign non-disclosures.
Yeah,
they would not be allowed
the standardized thing for getting early cards.
Yeah, they would not be allowed to release any of the information. It's in discussion,
and they can help kind of shape it without being a part of it.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, I think this will be a problem, Commander. This will definitely be a problem, Commander. They'd look at Nadu and go, what the hell is this?
Ban this.
Ban this. Like, don't even release this.
It is banned in every format. Ban it.
But taking it over by Wizards of the Coast was not the right thing to do. I think they were backed into a corner when their community turned on them, when a vocal minority of the community, not the whole community. I want to make this very clear. this was not the entire community.
No.
The discussion around these died down very quickly. The vocal minority, the investors who saw this and saw they lost thousands because their mana crypts weren't worth anything, went...
The ones who went and bought 20 mana crypts
or 50 Nadus and suddenly saw the prices crash, or have 30 extortionists, when they saw that go down and they got mad and their knee-jerk reaction was to threaten people, honestly, at that moment, the Magic community failed.
The thing is personally, I would have looked at him and went, well, what happens when you buy a stock? You're taking a chance.
But these are not meant to be investments. That's the big thing. That's my clap back to those people.
No card game's supposed to be an investment.
Exactly. No card game is an investment.
Because it is a game. If the company fails, the game no longer exists.
Yep. I honestly believe that I want the Commander Council to know that the community is on their side. I want them to know that we didn't turn on them, that it was a vocal minority, and that they got the threats that they did not deserve. And I think it's too late. I think Commander is now in the hands of Wizards of the Coast, and we have to see how that plays out, and we have to see where the cards fall. Right?
It's
Now, I don't like to end my episodes on a downer. I don't think we have a choice here, because at this moment there is no upside.
Yeah, we hope that the council changes their mind and talks to Wizards of the Coast and sees to see if they can work something out. They might even look at Wizards of the Coast's idea of the tier list and go, "That's actually a good idea, and that would help."
Yeah, but they handed it over already.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this in the infinite words of Padme Amidala. We're Star Wars people.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
No, that's Leia. This is how
wait.
liberty dies. To thunderous applause.
Yeah.
People were happy that they took it over. I don't agree with them. I think Commander is going to see a massive change, and I don't know if it's for the good.
It's gonna change, and the stuff that they were trying to prevent, the council was trying to prevent, of games being too slow or too fast. Games are going to be too fast. Look at what happened. Look at what's the Magic format? Where you can legitimately win in turn 0.
That's Legacy. Modern has turn 1 wins, turn 2 wins.
That's what's going to happen.
It's going to get faster.
Commander, legitimately, their
profits over play.
To increase their profits, they would remove a bunch of cards from the ban list, and there will be a bunch of turn 1 wins.
I don't agree that Wizards of the Coast is going to do well because they do not have any Nobody trusts Wizards. Nobody trusts Wizards of the Coast. They have turned on their community so many times.
In different games, too. Not just...
In D&D, in Magic the Gathering, we've seen it with all the products. No.
Look what happened with HeroScape.
Wizards of the Coast didn't make HeroScape. No, they did. They partnered with them. They didn't make it.
They partnered with them.
Or did they?
If I remember right, didn't they purchase HeroScape and then shut it down before they sold it?
Hasbro handed it off to them.
Yeah, and they shut it down.
Yeah, because they did their D&D sets. They do not have a track record with games. They do not have a good track record with games. Magic has been their most long-running one. I mean, that's everything that we really got to talk about. I don't want to keep ranting. I'm your host, Isaiah.
I'm Jacob.
We're logging out.